So now we're going to move into spelling. And spelling I have here is not an optional area of instruction. So, I've actually, for my daughter one year, I forget what year it was, they actually did not provide spelling instruction. Um, there's sometimes, as a person who knows about academic instruction, I have a hard time not going in and being angry, let's say, or trying to get my way. And this is one of those years where I really had to resist and just kind of recognizing the fact that I think, well, I guess I was thinking, I guess, about my daughter and, what problems it might cause if I'm one of those parents who are always screaming and fussing. Um, but I knew that I could work with her on it. Um, but spelling is not an optional area because it's so important for teaching kids to learn how to read. It's so important for our teaching kids how to learn to write. Yes, it we have computer systems nowadays that will correct our spelling for us, but if we are having to correct our spelling all the time with the computer system, or the computer system, it just doesn't do it automatically, because as you know, you get a lot of texts that end up being messed up because of um, automatic error correction or whatever. But that slows us down. And if you are being slowed down by spelling, then your ability to write is going to be hampered, because again, we talk about fluency, and if you lack fluency in basic skills, that hampers your ability to do more complex tasks. Whenever we're doing writing, you're trying to convey meaning. You have to have good sentence structure. You're trying to get your point across. What should be basic and what you should not have to be thinking about is spelling. You're having to think about spelling each of these words is going to make it much more difficult for you to write. So spelling is not an optional area of instruction. All schools should continue to teach spelling, even though we have great computer systems that help us out a lot these days. So spelling and learning to read rely on much of the same underlying knowledge. So spelling and reading build and rely on the same mental representation of a word. Knowing the spelling of a word makes a representation of it sturdy and accessible for fluent reading. So by learning the spelling of a word, having to practice and repeat it, so you're having to produce it as opposed to just read it, makes you much faster. That word is going to become part of your sight vocabulary at a much quicker rate. And we think about morphology, right? And we think about our root words, and we need to be teaching these root words so that they are quick and easy and apparent for kids. So whenever they see those root words, they just say those root words, and they just come to them really quickly. Um, that is one of the reasons why, spelling, we don't need spelling in 8th grade, but we need spelling in, probably 1st through 3rd grade, 1st through 4th grade, because kids need to be putting those sight vocabulary, those words that should be part of their sight vocabulary, and those words which are appearing regularly in text need to become part of their um, part of where they're not having to think about it, and that they understand it. It also really helps with orthography. So, and it helps with understanding affixes and prefixes, suffixes. So it's really important for them to be getting this information. Spelling and reading build and rely on the same mental representation of a word. So knowing the spelling of a word makes the representation of it sturdy and accessible for fluent reading. It involves breaking apart a spoken word into its sounds and encoding them into the letters representing each sound. So just like whenever we are teaching, and we're explicit about teaching that the M on the word mop and map is the same. Whenever we teach the word rat and cat and sat, we should be showing the kids that they have the same rhyme, and that rhyme at is spelled the same across all 3 of those words. Failing to do that, and you might think that, oh, it would never get taught, but I promise you it gets failed to be taught in schools, is we have to teach that explicitly. We have to show students that connection and that similarity across those words. teaching them that whenever we're teaching them their spelling words is going to teach them and help them whenever they're doing it, whenever reading. And then thinking about it, we have generalization across these these bridges, these areas, right? So spelling is important to, so you need to understand and know these rhymes both for whenever you're doing spelling and for whenever you're doing reading. So you need to use these things across settings, across different types of tasks that you are completing to be a successful student. So moving on. Effective in spelling instruction focuses on helping children to go from sound to letter, which strongly reinforces their reading of going from letter to sound. Okay, and if you just say, whenever we talk a lot of times about receptive and expressive language, so in one sense, you could almost see that receptive language is typically better than expressive language. So people are able to generally, hear and respond to directions quicker than they're able to, produce the vocabulary to express those vocabulary and express sentences. So, you can give directions to a kid before they're really able to produce multi-word sentences. And the same kind of spelling is the same there. So with reading is kind of the receptive, and spelling is the expressive, because you're having to produce it, okay? The effective spelling instruction focuses on helping children to go from sound to letter, which strongly reinforces their reading, which goes from letter to sound. So many different linguistic knowledge sources provide the foundation for spelling abilities. These linguistic foundations include knowledge and awareness of phonology, so which is the system of sounds, orthography, which is the rules of spelling, semantics, which is meaning, and morphology, how words are formed, right? As well as the ability to stop clear and concise graphemic representations. What am I? I'm sorry, the ability to store clear and concise graphemic representations is the last one. So as children begin to start spelling and represent words with the alphabet, they often encode by their initial consonant, followed by their ending sound. So sometimes you will just kind of see they do not put the middle sounds there. They just might put the initial sound, the initial consonant, and then have whatever the ending sound is in it. Middle sounds are typically vowels, and those are the ones that they typically emit whenever they're starting. So horse might be written as HRS, and monster with the MSTR. Invented spelling allows children to practice applying the alphabetic principle and gain in phonemic awareness. So 2 different effective spelling interventions include cover, copy, compare, word boxes, and word sort. So cover, copy, compare can also be used, and we often see it used with math. So with math facts, it's very simple, efficient, self-managed academic intervention that can be used to improve accuracy, fluency, maintenance across students, curricular objectives, academic skills, and domains and settings. Okay, so with cover, copy, compare, you would have the word spelled correctly for the student in the left-hand column, so they would have their 10 words, and each of those words spelled there. They would look at the word in the left and then cover it up and then spell it in 1A. And then after spelling it in 1A, they would then immediately look over again to the column 1, the left column, and check their spelling. If they didn't get it correct then they would correct it again they would cross it out 1A and write in 1B. So they would do that for each of these things. So what we do whenever we look at this, we're providing modeling right? So the kid gets the letter modeled for them, the word modeled for them. Then they get to practice it, and then they check it to get immediate corrective feedback. They don't move on to the next word before actually checking number one and getting immediate feedback on it. This differs from what happens most often in a classroom, where the kid will write the word as maybe even several times before checking the word. So it's really forcing the kid to check their word and then put it there in the 1A space. Okay, and then if they don't get it correct, they put it in the 1B space. So that's a really effective practice for doing spelling instruction. One thing I often see kids do whenever they are doing spelling instruction is whenever they just do, let's say they're spelling the word rat and they have to do it 10 times, and they just put the letter R down 10 times, and then they do the letter A and put it down 10 times, and so forth. Whenever they're doing that, they're not learning to spell the words like they need to be learning to spell the words. So another type of interventions are word boxes and word sort. Word boxes and word sort are two word study phonics approaches that involve teaching phonemic awareness, making letter sound associations, and teaching spelling through the use of well-established behavior principles, such as modeling, repeated exposure, and reinforcement. And I'm not sure what happened. I actually made, oh, I think I put it, yes, I put it at the end. Okay. So I'm going to talk about these each individually. I just have some slides that show it, but then I actually want you all to go to on this last slide here. Not that slide, this slide here. I'd like you to go to these um, two YouTube sites and find and watch these two videos. So the first one provides some different examples of, or provides an example of word boxes. I think it's 1.5, 2 minutes maybe. And then this one is maybe the word sort one is maybe 6 minutes, and it provides some different examples of different type of word sort interventions. These are class-wide interventions that can easily be um, So with word boxes, the teacher selects up to 10 consonant, vowel, consonant words, or it could be other word types. But we would want to be sticking with words that have the same number of letters to them and have, some sort of common ending, so common rhyme to them, or something of that nature, common suffix. We're wanting to make sure that the kids are seeing the word boxes. We're working here both on phonemic awareness, phonics, and have explicitly teaching kids these similarities across the words. So the teacher selects up to 10 consonant, vowel, consonant words each trial and writes them on word boxes, recording form worksheet. And the teacher also writes the 10 words onto index cards and with 1 word per card. The teacher sounds out the words and a word and puts the counter into the word boxes. So we're putting those word counters into the word boxes because we're really trying to show the kids that the word is made up of these individual sounds. And with the phonics component of it is we're showing them what sounds, what letters, what graphemes represent those sounds. Okay. The teacher places the counters under each of the 3 blanks on the word boxes, the phonics practice sheet, and the teacher next reads aloud a word from the word list. The teacher sounds out each letter in the CVC word. While sounding out each letter, the teacher slides a counter into the corresponding word box. Okay, so they'd be moving 1, 2, 3. Now the video that you all are going to watch, the girl doesn't do, the lady doing it, just she doesn't have a counter. She moves the little whatever magnet or whatever she's moving across from word and word to the next. I couldn't find a really great example of it. So the teacher sounds out the word and the student then we have the teacher sounding out the word and the student puts the counter into the word boxes. So now the teacher, in step 1, the teacher modeled it. In step 2, now we're having the student do it. The teacher directs the student to put the counters into the word boxes while the teacher pronounces the letter sounds of the CVC words. So we're kind of moving some of the responsibility over to the student. Then the student sounds out the word and puts the letters into the word boxes. So using magnetic letters, the teacher lines up the letters that make up the target word under each of the appropriate blocks of the worksheet. And the student is then directed to sound out each letter sound in the CVC word, sliding that movable letter counter into the corresponding word box. Then the student is given a marker and directed to write the letters of the target word into the appropriate word boxes. And finally, step 5, the teacher should keep track of the student's performance on the word activity. So if you see here, there's a lot of modeling, there's practicing, and the teacher is directly helping the student, making sure that no errors are occurring. And basically, she's scaffolding it, right? So she's decreasing the level of assistance that she's giving the students, providing him with more and more responsibility as she goes on. So this is what, word boxes practice sheet might look like. The word sort is the word teacher demonstrates the word sort just on this first session here. The teacher first reads aloud each of the key words atop the column of the word sort practice sheet. Those words might have read, sit, top, rug. And essentially what we're having the kids do is sort the words that they are learning that week into their different categories so that they are seeing how these what commonalities these words have with them, and the teacher is explicitly teaching these students the commonality of the words. Okay. So, these are maybe the 4 different types or the 5 different words, and the kids having to sort the words they're learning that week into what category they belong to. You'll see in the video that I am showing you all that that there are all kinds of different ways we might do this word sort, and it's just kind of an easy way, as a class-wide structure, you can get kids to be practicing this, and they can be helping each other out with it, and doing a lot without actually having to do a lot of writing at the time. You'd probably be something you'd be doing with younger kids. You can be doing a lot of words. It might be including more than just their spelling words, but you're working on both phonemic awareness and phonics at the time. All participants demonstrate increase in the results of a study that was looking at these 2 interventions showed that all participants demonstrate increases in performance relative to baseline conditions for both the word reading and spelling. When combined word study phonic procedures, they had both a word box and a word sort in the intervention. For all students, reading and spelling accuracy were 100% for the last 2 intervention settings. These results were consistent with previous studies exploring the effectiveness of word boxes and word sorts on spelling and reading constant vowel constant pattern words. So these activities provide a novel format for increasing students' opportunities to respond with early literacy skills such as phonemic awareness, word reading, spelling, syllables, single syllable words. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording.